Round 11 TLT. We've got Guy on our screen. It's a bit of an interesting one. It looks like the other guys are coming back, but I wonder what's happened with Daney boy. I know Leo Thompson's probably going to be out. So let's just see. No, Dane's fine. Yeah, cool. Fletcher Hunt, hey? It's going to be the new winger for the Knights. We have Zach Lomax back on the other side. Russell Penasini. Yeah, Simonson was the injury, so yeah, that hurts him. Sorry, getting sidetracked by the Eels there with the Knights. Fletcher Hunt, he's going to get an opportunity for the next month or so. Is he someone that you would be interested in at this point of the season? Do you need another cheapie? People looking at Piakura and these types of guys. Do you need another one? You're probably selling 800k guys, 700k players. Marzu's in the 600 odds. Do you need to have a look at one of them? But I will mention him in the buys video coming out tomorrow. Jack Cogger in the 7 with Fletcher Sharp. So nothing else changes there on that one. Do have Ponga back there. Is he going to pull his finger out in this game? I'm unsure. Jacob Saifidi is going to be an option for people. Thomas Cant on the interchange bench. There you go. Who's out of this one? Leo and Greg. Yeah, so Thomas comes on there. On the interchange, that maybe more for Supercoach. I still own him in Supercoach, so got to think of that one there. With Lucas, make sure you get him in. Number one priority this week. Kaipis Paul, hopefully a bounce back game for him. You've got Elliott in the starting side there in this week, so that's interesting as well. What have we got? Frizzell. Frizzell starting in the front row. Okay. That makes sense. So Elliott comes on into 13, and he probably has he will probably have a pretty good game here, but longer term, is that going to stick, or will he go back to the bench when Leo Thompson does return? That'll be the interesting thoughts there, but outside of that, Saifidi will be an option. I'll go through him in the buys video. I've seen people putting some stats out already around him with meters gained, and that's been crazy the last couple of weeks. So yeah, we'll get to that soon. Eels, on the other hand, you've got probably just some holds with Yongi, with Smith, with Katonga in there. We see Matt Dury starting on the right hand. Well, I imagine he'll start on the right hand side next to Moses, given that's where Charlie Geimer was. Jack Williams and Paulo there. Nothing else really changed. People asked about Addo Carr. Unfortunately, after the 3 good games in a row, I think it's a little bit too late. You probably have missed the gains. Last week was probably the last chance to jump onto him. And this is going to be the big one for Lomax. Can he come back? Can he play really well? And fortunately for him, he gets Fletcher Hunt instead of Greg Marzu coming up against him. So to be honest, the Greg one would have been a great test for him to see where he's at and if he's ready to be selected for Origin, but doesn't get that opportunity. Although, could come out and score really well with Penasini next to him. That's going to be very, very fun. And they have named him at the wing, given that's where he would be getting picked in Origin. Hopgood, when's he going to get some minutes? We got Tony Matele, Moretti, Walker, Semrani. Surely Hopgood gets some minutes this week, eh? It doesn't look like it's going to happen, but surely. All right, Doggies, Roosters, what do we got here? For the Dogs, things stay the same in their front 7. Kurt Mann gets the 13. That was generally expected. Harry Hayes on the edge. There you go. So that's the big change there, with the rest of it staying the same. With Hayes, is it long enough to get an opportunity? Probably, to score enough points at his price point. With guys like Curran to return fairly soon, Tupanua a little bit longer away, and then Preston a few weeks away as well. I don't think it's enough weeks to plug in Hayes, although this definitely means he's a good chance to end up starting on the edge next week as well, I think. Curran back the week after, potentially. I'll have to fact check that one, or someone in the comments will let us know. Thank you. You guys are really good for that. Or if I make a little bit of a mistake, it's like 3 people popping in the comments. Thanks, guys. Maxi King with he's really the only forward I think you can look at. Vil Kickout continues to score pretty well, and he's a focal point in attack as well. So yeah, I see his role has changed this year, and that's where the 50 plus average comes from. So he's definitely an interesting guy to look at there. If you're one of the people that have been asking me each week on him, I think that he's a really solid guy to plug and play in that edge. But you've got guys like Hosking that are a little bit cheaper now that we know have scored better in the past. Now Karaz still an option, but do have to worry about him making Origin. I think that it could be a tough stretch to pick Lomax after playing one game. we'll see how he comes out and plays. But, Carraz and Crichton together has been spectacular. So be aware of that. If you are buying him, there is a risk that he makes Origin, and very much the same with Tedesco. There's that risk there. But could work out perfectly. They both will continue to make some cash. Tedesco is coming off two really big scores, and that's where not buying him this week can be a bit of an annoying one. For myself, I'm sitting there in that scenario where you could buy him this week, but it's also up against the Dogs. And similar with Billy Smith, with Toya, with Wangani Tawaze. We'll have to see how they actually score in this game. Can they have really big games? I'm not sure. They could. Raiders put 20 on in the first half, and it could happen similarly with the Roosters. We just don't know at this point. So Teddy is the biggest risk, along with Toya, for going up in price a lot, when Toya, coming off the 98, definitely has the low break even there. Savala keeps his spot. I think playing him straight up is going to be fine this week. He should get the tackles, should get the kick meters. There's a back and forth affair, and he does defend on kick our side, but I think defending on Carraz's side, Sandon Smith, can be a little bit more difficult with just all the carries out of their own end, where he can get tackle breaks on. Kick out in good ball, that's where you could miss a few, but it's the other side, I think, in general ball that's going to be the problem. Now, Nafahu White, someone I think you can have a look at if you're looking at mids. Victor Radley as well, people are mentioning, and he's just had so many low games in decent minutes as well. Siwa Wong, an easy hold if you've got him. If you held Crichton through last week and Connor Watson, you hold for one more week, and then you decide next week. It sounds like Connor will play, but there's a chance that he doesn't. So, you need to keep those things in mind there as well. And now the thing with Nafahu White, we'll speak about in the buys video in more depth, but they're likely to lose Spencer Lenu. And he does have Lindsay Collins returning this week. But, this is kind of one of their more high-quality forward packs that they have had. And could spell a little bit of trouble for Wong, so I'm definitely watching out for him as to what's happening there. But I think more for White, once Lenu goes to Origin, for those three major buys, he becomes a more important scorer. They'll have Zach Docker-Clay at 9. Crichton will be gone, so, Egan Butcher, or who else they got? They got Faghetti that can come back into the side. Do they move Radley to an edge? There's a few different things they can do, and that's where, maybe this week's not perfect for guys like Naf White, but the following ones could be really good. Finns Warriors. For the Finns there, Isaiah Katoa, I think, is by far their best buy. He's been awesome, and if you need a half, I would personally probably go for him. It's him or Fogarty in my eyes. Kurt Donahue keeping the 9 jersey. We don't see JMK. Nothing changed for them, did it? Yeah, nothing at all. And then Jackson Ford, Bunty Afoa come out of the Warriors side. We do see Fisher Harris back in action. Aaron Clark keeps the 13. We knew that was going to happen. You've got Niokore and Halasima. On the edges there, Kirk Capewell sticks in the centres, which again I think is good news for Aaron Clark there. You've got both Tamati Martin and Sam Healy on the bench right now. We had Roger on the extended last week, and then he's on the extended again. Now, with this interchange, if it actually sticks like this, it's perfect for guys like Barnett, Fish, definitely Clark. If one of them dropped off, how many minutes would you see one of these reserves playing? And it's probably not a lot. So, the only other thing there is, does Halasima keep playing 80? There's potential room to move for, to get guys like Clark and Barnett minutes, and Fish. With Halasima playing less minutes, we'll have to see if that actually happens. But Clark is the only one, along with Barnett, probably a really decent chance of playing Origin. It'd be nice to see Fish back for another week before you did try to select him for next week. He's definitely an option. Not the best option, not a top 3 scorer, but would do a job for you. Cowboys Eagles. For the Cowboys, we see Jackson Purdue in the 6 jersey, with Dearden in the 7, and it's good for his tackle numbers, good for some more potential attack off the boot. He'll potentially kick a decent amount as well. Looking at sort of his Queensland Cup numbers, and he was up and down in terms of kick meters. No really big games, but I think he'll probably split it with Tommy there. But a big call to make with Clifford going out of this side. He came into the side and we started winning, so that part's interesting there for sure. Zach Labart does return, which is exciting to see, and hopefully Darby has a nice return game there after some good running meters, but some tough errors there for him. Drinky, you can still buy this week. You can look at round 13, especially after his lowest score last week. It just stabilizes his break even a little bit, which is good. And still have Cotter out of the side, unfortunately. So hopefully he does come back soon. Anyone else from that team? No, we're just looking at Drinkwater and we're looking at Purdue. I think both of those guys, at this stage, you can wait until round 13 to pick them up. Eagles. Garrick, tough one for him. Comes up against definitely a nicer matchup in Zach Labart compared to KL Iro. And he should go back to doing well. Oh, this one's a tough one here for owners of Jazz Tavanga. He moves back into the 9 jersey, which we know he can at least make the tackles, but when he was playing there earlier, he wasn't doing too well in terms of scoring in those decent minutes. So, yeah, how's that going to work? Is he going to play 9 to start, then Sim can play the rest, and then he moves to the middle, or does he get a break? We'll have to find out. But, yeah, they've moved Jake back in that starting 13 jersey. And, yeah, I don't think you can pick Turbo at this point. Olakwatu, I think you just got to clearly hold. And we'll leave it there. Shark Storm. For the Sharkies. Trindle's all good, it looks like. Their team is exactly the same, apart from Hazelton being out. And that means... Talakai returns? Yeah, he was out last week, wasn't he? Colquhoun, Hamlin Ueli, yep. Yeah, so Talakai does return for Hazelton. That's right, concussion. Hazelton has come to a shoulder injury, that's right. And then Oregon Kafusi goes back to the start, yep. Teague Wilton a chance to come back, but yeah, not someone of note unless you did hold him. And if you did, I'm sorry. I know a few people did own him before the injury, and I think he should have been sold. Guys you want to look at in that team, it is potentially Nico Hines, but I do have him third on that halves list. I think Kale Iro is an alternative to Herbie or to Garrick, to Karaz, these types of guys that you may want to have a look at. You know, some people are really keen on him, and I love watching him play. He continues to score tries, which is so good. But yeah, AFB and McInnes. Britton Nickera, if you want a cheaper edge, he's also doing a really solid job from the Sharkies. And yeah, Billy Burns likely to keep his spot one more week. For the Storm side, that back 7 looks exactly the same. Holding on for one more week for guys like Munster, definitely. I wonder how he will go against the Sharks. Does he go back to normal programming? Jerome Hughes, I think he's an easy target come round 13, given the issues he's having with his shoulder, going off early marks and stuff like that. And a big test for Pappenhausen against a pretty good Sharks team away from home to see if he can nab that, what looks like potentially being the bench jersey as a utility. Especially when they can use, I imagine if they're going to use him and potentially Watson. Watson can cover all the forward positions. Not that they'd need an edge or anything like that, but he can play in the middle. He can play at 9. He can play at 6 or 7 very comfortably. Well, not 7, but 6, and defend there, and that's completely fine. Whereas Pap covers the whole back line, whereas Watson wouldn't do that as well. So I like the potential thought of him as 14, but will they go down that route? I think unfortunately, with Pappenhausen, you probably have to wait and see, given the break even very, very low. Makes it tough, but he's almost priced at 50. So it's not like he's going to go up a crazy amount more. He could get to 51, 52, 53 if he goes well again, but it's also against the Sharks. And Eli Katoa you can watch until next week. What we don't see is Harry Grant the starting side, but he is in the reserve, so he's a chance to come back and get a hit out before Origin. If he doesn't, there's a few guys that are stamping their feet at the door for an opportunity. Now, Broncos, Ben Hunt is out. Ezra Mam has been named. Very, very interesting, that one there. The rest of the team stays the same. Willison, they've got starting right now, but we did see last week that Pierre Kura did get the jump and move into that starting side for Xavier, who played a really good impact role off the bench in very low minutes, surprisingly. But this side there with Ezra, I imagine there will be a few that do take a flyer on him to see how he goes, and against the Dragons too. But they're generally defending okay, the Dragons. They just don't have too much an attack right now. Shibasaki, if you own, could probably hold one more week. Payne Haas, I think we hold throughout the period. Carrigan might be very similar, but isn't scoring to the same heights as Payne Haas. And yeah, that's basically it from that side. And then for the Dragons there, Lycan keeps his spot in the 7 jersey, which is great. In terms of their forwards, we do see Dylan Egan back into the starting side with Luciano Lua back to the bench. I don't get this team sometimes. I don't get this coach. Blake Laurie returns to the side, I believe, with Toby Couchman being out. It looks like 3 weeks for him, and we'll talk about him in the holds and the sells video. For their forward pack, Cook with DeBellin back in the starting with Clemmer. Egan, is he actually going to start though, or is he going to play through the middle? And Hamish Stewart, a really interesting mid-range player. Pacifica Tonga, cheapy, but not going to be worth it, as I said at the top. Most likely you're not going to take any of those guys. All right, Kieran Foran, he's in the 14 jersey, so we didn't see AJ Brimson going back to fullback, which would have hurt my soul, given I sold him, and then he got 64. If he went back to fullback, I thought, he could definitely do better there. But he comes in the 14 jersey, and we'll see how they play this one. Hey, where do you inject him? Do you play him at a bit of 9? I don't know if you want him tackling that much. Do you move Brimson somewhere else when you bring Foran on? It's pretty interesting how it's going to play out. So I think we watch that one this week and then decide for round 13 what happens with Campbell and stuff like that. He's definitely one. Sorry, in terms of watching, I think you watch the rest of the team. Campbell is the one that you could take a flyer on this week. If you don't, though, he's not going to go up too much in cash, most likely. He still is coming back from an injury, which should mean he's fine to come back, but he didn't have surgery. So usually it sounds like if you do have surgery, you can come back a little bit cleaner and without too much risk, given it's a, what they call it, foolproof type of surgery there. They normally come back really well with it. DeGroot keeps his spot for now. We'll see if any of that changes come game day, but it'll be a bit too late, 4 o'clock in this game here. Any of their forwards, both for more. I think he does make Origin. Tino Crusher last week. Now for the Raiders, we do lose Matt Nicholson. Unfortunately, sounds like it is fracture and syndesmosis, so he's going to be out for 10 to 12 weeks, I believe. Not great, so I'll be selling him personally, and Zach Hoskin comes back into the Raiders side in the back row, but probably also my side as well. And we'll see though, people are like, oh, well, he was never playing full games, but he also had an injury in the preseason, and carrying the calf, there was no reason to play him those massive minutes. But I think since coming back from his injury, he's been able to get through 4 games in pretty decent minutes off the bench, and I think that's probably enough for him to play the full game. And I think they should keep it the way they were doing it with Nicholson. Why can't Hoskin get through the full game if Nicholson can? That's my general thoughts. But they do have the interchange set up with Paddy, Sasangi, Papali, and Mariota, so there's a chance they don't keep it the way we want, but they could also go, Sasangi, Papali, Mariota through the middle, or they bring Sasangi onto that edge. Hoskin goes to 13. We also know that when Hudson Young, if he likely goes to Origin, we'll see Hosking play big minutes in round 12, and then we'll see on backing up and stuff like that. But Huddy's usually pretty good like that, and he's unlikely to play big minutes unless he's starting in Origin. Tamale, I think, a pretty clear hold. Fogarty, a good buy if you need him. Horsburgh is back, which is nice to see for anyone who held on, not myself. And Starling, make sure you hold on to him. Tarpany, a really fun buy, so we'll talk about him in that video. That one's done. And then the final one, Tigers and the Bunnies. For the Tigers side of things, we do see Stafford Toa named, which is, I suppose, nice for my side as a last ditch if I need him as a scorer or not. I think he's the guy with 9 lives in my side right now. Terrell, I think, is still a really strong captaincy option this week, given I think he's fighting for a Blues jersey as well, which will be fun for him. No one else in the back line. In the forwards, Royce Hunt getting the start. Hey, who we got out? Oh, Pole, that's right, he's out. So, yeah, you'd imagine that pretty close for Terrell to go the full length, especially when you got Sukar, Tony Sukar, Bird, and Fainu on the bench with Naden. So this screams Terrell made 80 minutes and 12 decent minutes as well, to be honest. So, yeah, that's that one there. Now let's hit on the Tigers. Moving on to the Bunnies to round this one out. We should expect another decent score, a good score, a scary score from Latrell this week. Johnson is back on the wing, which is good. Bentley Harpe is back there as well with Sullivan and Humphreys. In their forwards, Havili keeps the 9. Aiken and Tallis Duncan. We see Hubner in that 13. And the good news is, for anyone looking at Kolomatangi and for you and Aiken, they're both named in their best fantasy scoring positions. Interchange stays the same there. What's the difference? Oh, Fletcher Myers. That's why I was like, who missed out? Fletcher. There you go. So yeah, the forwards stay the same. I think that's great news for Aiken and Kolomatangi. Duncan still just very hit and miss on his scoring. And Hubner in 13, you can keep him there. I don't know who would start ahead of him at this point. So yeah, I think it's fine, but not someone you clearly want to play each and every week unless it's sort of more of a last ditch effort. So we'll leave that one there, guys. Thanks so much for jumping in for TLT for round 11. We're getting almost to the halfway point of the season, and yeah, we'll roll with it. Thanks so much for joining, guys. Hope this helped your teams. Not too crazy overall, so it's more just we already knew the players that were going to be out, and Jackson Purdue, the big change here in this one. Thanks for this one, guys. See you in the next one.